that your horse doesn't have to blow up and buck before you can realize actually there's some things that we could do to make them be a little safer, or it's a little more low risk, a little more high reward. I open up every clinic I do with a line that I learned from my friend Richard, and the line is, there's nothing safe about what we're about to do. And what I mean is, there's nothing safe about riding horses. Hey guys, we're about to jump into part 3 of the video series here with Jasper. And I just want to say a big thank you to his owner for being willing to let me share the story of this with you guys. I think this is a really important one, because if you know of people that have horses, you probably know of somebody that's been hurt with a horse. Horses can be dangerous, and so it's really important that we read them well and that we set things up for success on the ground before just climbing on and seeing what happens. So watch this video to the end. I think you'll be glad that you did. Thanks for watching. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. Yeah. So it's been his go-to response when he feels claustrophobic. Yeah. And even like this, like saddling him shouldn't create that brace. He shouldn't change his expression.
No, he'd move away.
Yeah. So that's better. Getting better. But you just don't want your equipment to be a thing at all, you know.
No, he's very aware of like the cinch coming down.
Yep. So every time he does that with his head, what I would do is ask him to just lower it. And just go, hey, relief's down here. You know, obviously there's going to be plenty of times where it's not, but I would just be constantly reminding him of this. Because down here is a different mindset than up here. Up here, he's in an alert, braced mindset, and so he just licked and chewed, which means just bringing out the saddle caused him to change states of bothered. And so imagine if we just carried on and just got on and rode him when he had, you know, now he switched back right there when he licked and chewed. And that was caused from doing this. If I hadn't lowered his head, he might not have switched states.
Yeah. He's tolerated deer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
At close range and all that.
Yeah, I think it was connected to the human in the saddle, the human in the cinches. And it was like borderline good enough to be safe to ride the rest of the time, but it was borderline. It wasn't like solid. And I think you kind of knew that. And then just this whole, you know, you and the brace right now today is the whole reason why I emphasize this to people and why I have a YouTube channel, why I do this, because people need to be aware that your horse doesn't have to blow up and buck before you can realize actually there's some things that we could do to make them be a little safer, or it's a little more low risk, a little more high reward. I open up every clinic I do with a line that I learned from my friend Richard, and the line is, there's nothing safe about what we're about to do. And what I mean is, there's nothing safe about riding horses. And so we can mitigate that a little bit by really good preparation. Really, really good preparation. Because baseline, it's not safe to ride any of them. They're big and they're fast, and so we gotta be aware, cognizant of that, and do as many things as we can to help it be as safe as possible for doing a dangerous thing. You know, no different than like if you were a motorcycle rider. Well, you could be a motorcycle rider with shorts on and a t-shirt and no helmet, or you could be a motorcycle rider that rides any time of day, any place, anywhere, or you could be a motorcycle rider that only rides when there's good conditions, with a helmet on, with like a Kevlar or whatever stuff that they wear, so that if they did have to lay the bike down, they're going to walk away from it. Like, there's very different, you know, it's a dangerous thing to do for any of them, but there is ways to make it safer, you know, not driving when it's nighttime and deer, and so it's just managing that. And that's what we have to do with horses, is set things up for success as much as possible. And so that's what I was trying to do with him today with all that preparation. Have a plan, be ready to change plans. That's my policy. Because it's not really about riding. It's really about getting him to relax and turn loose. The tolerances the margins are just too slim for him to decide to buck. All I gotta do is bring my energy up and ask him to canter, and then he's out. You know what I mean? Like, I want him to be able to tolerate a little bit more than that. Because I'm the same person sitting on his back if I bring my life up and ask him to move out. And I don't like that he has such a abrasion to cantering. Cantering is a scary thing for him. And so that's why he pulls away every time I ask him instead of just going forward. That needs to be a little easier response for him to give. And again, I'm releasing him on forward. This is a better answer than him running sideways. Does that make sense? Move forward. There, I like that. I clucked to him, he didn't think away, he just kind of trotted out a little bit more. So that's like a little test to follow the feel. So he followed the feel, but then what did he do when I was behind him? Whoa, he's behind me. You know what I mean?
This wasn't a snake. This wasn't a rock in his foot.
No. There's a lot of holes in his foundation.
Yeah.
And so like that was better, but he was still worried. You know what I mean? Yeah. That feeling of being claustrophobic is where the bucking lives. That is the same thing when I put the rope between his legs. Yeah. When I put the rope around here, when I approached him quickly. All those things cause him to feel claustrophobic, which is what leads to bucking. So it's the box of him feeling claustrophobic that ultimately is what has to change. Also notice he hasn't blown out a single time. No, and he would, if we did this every day for a week or two, he would be blowing out, and we would learn, okay, this and this is the recipe to get him to blow out and get the most relaxed we can get him.
He has blown out on our rides.
Yep.
How far into the ride?
It's usually, well, like 40 minutes.
Wow. And see, I'm not going to step on a horse that can't just have their head down and relaxed, because it's all feedback. It's all telling you stuff, you know. Don't worry, I'm a professional.
Professional what?
But see, I'm not trying to ride him. I'm trying to release him to being ridden. There's a difference. And the only way it's a release to being ridden is if he feels the best when I'm on him. And right now he's saying, I'm scared of you getting on me. So there is an element of accepting the human that's not there, that we're missing. And I didn't realize that at first, but we're learning that as we go here. But you see how he changes states just from the human thinking about mounting him? These are all his way of telling us, I'm not okay with this. Oh my gosh. He's trying. He's trying. If he wasn't trying, he wouldn't lower his head right away when I ask. But the fact remains that he's been mounted probably with his head up in the air pretty much every time.
Yeah, his head's never been.
See there, he took a breath. When I walked towards him, he took a breath and relaxed. That's what we're going for. So this technique is just a way of approaching and retreating. I'm approaching now. I just hope people watching this can see this is the stuff I look for that tells me, yes, we're green lights, we're good to go, or yellow light. And this is a big old bright yellow light. It's not a red light, it's a big old bright yellow one. There's bigger lights than this that are red. And we're not red, but we're yellow. And it needs to be green. It needs to be green in order to be safe. And so I'm just chipping away at all the situations. And what I'm doing here, I think is pretty safe because I feel like I have a good enough idea of him that I could stop or dismount or something. Like it's not going to trigger it any worse. But you could do all that groundwork in the world and you're still going to do that. He's still going to do this when you mount him because he's always done it. It's a habit at this point. You know, if I would have been the one to colt start him, we would have taught them this at the very, very beginning, and he would have accepted the rider right from the get-go, or we wouldn't have continued. Which means we would have done it. But when you kind of just get rides done on him, and he's kind of just going through the motions, but he's not really fully accepting it, then you get. Now, see how his ears went forward there? They're not like fixed back on me where he's really bothered. It's just, this is a little bit more of a habit for him. Does that make sense? To just be braced. Like he just associates saddling and mounting with brace. So these are all the things that he needs fixed. The riding would probably actually go fairly well once these things were fixed, which is kind of good news. Because if you can't find any holes on the ground, all you're left with is go ahead and saddle up, mount up, you know. And proof that it's just right under the surface there. But the correct response by me for him getting tight is not rubbing him, it's putting pressure on him going, you can be tight, but more pressure comes on when you're tight. Pressure goes away when you relax. You know, but the bad news is when you came off of him, it scared him too. So there's gonna be a little residual, which is why I'm trying to keep going a little further. I'd like to try to leave him in a little better spot. But I'm having a hard time. There's some work to do here. You know, there's more than a 1 day fix, 1 hour fix here. It'll get there. It's doable, but it's also with more training, it doesn't change his disposition. It just helps him create new patterns and better habits and stuff like that. So now he's a little stuck. Yep. So I think that's where we're gonna have to kind of quit it today. I wanted to get a little further, but time-wise, we're kind of out of time. And the goal today was more about learning, on evaluating and understanding where he's at. And I feel like I have a pretty good idea now of where he's at. Like I would know exactly what I'm going to work on tomorrow. You know what I mean? But yeah, there is plenty to work on there. But I hope for you guys, you could take away seeing and reading a horse on another level, reading him a little better, and seeing what mindsets, how it can escalate and how it can lead to bucking, lead to those things. They're on a big release now. So now would actually be a good time to do this. See why he's having that big release right there? But you can see how much just getting on him triggers that. But you can see he's still like, when the rider goes to mount him, oh, they're gonna mount me, you know. It pulled him out of that relaxation mindset and put him back into like defensive. And now he's back to like, okay, you know.
And the question, I guess the ultimate question I have is, you know, and you don't have to include this or whatever, but I guess, you know, I'm 54 years old and I can see that he needs work. You know, I'm okay with saying that I made a mistake. And that, you know, that maybe he needs to be with somebody that can work with him. Because it just scared me.
Yeah. So I think I really, really appreciate your candidness, and I appreciate how open and honest you're being about everything, because this is one of those real and difficult decisions and conversations to have, and difficult decisions for you to make. Yeah. I've done this a lot. I've been doing this a long time with a lot of people, a lot of horses. And I know he can be better than he is. I know there's some work that we can do that would help him. Yeah. I think you're always going to have an underlying fear of him. Yeah. And I think you would be better off finding the right person for him that can put the work in. I think he's a very nice horse, but I think he's a overly sensitive, reactive horse. Yeah. For somebody that wants to ride a couple times a week. That's not a trainer. That's not a professional. Right. You know, he needs just that much work. You know, if I thought we could get over this in a month or so, I'd be like, well, let's look at dates for training and let's figure this out. I think it would take a while, like at best, like 3 to 6 months to really get him where I would even trust you riding him here. Yeah. And I think if you took him home and you let him sit for a little while, I think you'd have your hands full again. And I think he's just a very sensitive horse that really requires somebody to be on top of it. Yeah. But I think the other problem is you're going to get on him with this like, oh, this happened, because you've had a traumatic experience with him now. Yeah. And that doesn't mean you're a wimp or you're scared rider or anything. No, it means you had a bad experience. Like any of us would have that same response. That's a natural human response to things. But I've seen people try to toughen up about it, and they're like, nope, I'm going to keep this horse and never sell a horse once you bought him and this and that. Yeah. I'm not saying just ship him off to the next person, whoever. Yeah. I'll help you. We'll make a plan. We'll figure this out. So, but for those of you watching, I just want you to realize that on one hand, I don't like seeing people just, the horse is the wrong horse for me, and move on to get on. I'm not a fan of that either. But once you've had a traumatic event with a horse, we've learned and acknowledged he's a little too much horse for what you're looking for. Yeah. And he's not your dream horse right now. And I just feel like there's another horse out there that would be your dream horse. Yeah. And this horse might be a dream horse to somebody else that wants to ride 5 days a week. Yeah. And we can help this horse get through some of those tight spots, and you know, it'll be a good deal. So, I can be objective and logical about that, and a lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that just believe you stick with the horse no matter what to the end, and I see a lot of people that are miserable for a really long time because they have the wrong horse, or they're scared for a really long time. Because horses naturally synchronize with our energy, and so if you get on him and you have this fear, even if you're faking it and be like, I'm not afraid, I'm going to toughen up, and I'm just going to get on and just go, you're going to have this underlying fear. You can't trick him. You could trick me, you could trick everybody watching, but you can't trick him. He's going to feel that energy when you get on. And I've just seen it before where people decided to keep a horse and stick with it. And if I thought that was the appropriate answer, I would be talking you into, let's make a game plan, let's do this, this, and this, and here we go. Yeah. I think he's innately a very sensitive horse, a little too sensitive for you and what you want to do. I think you did great to get along with him as long as you did, honestly. I'm impressed that you could ride that long. Like, you could probably get along with a lot of horses. And so I'm going to put you in touch. And I actually think this horse would be a great horse for him, and it's kind of a perfect opportunity. So you guys can stay tuned. We'll see more of Jasper, hopefully. And yeah, I actually know of a guy who's looking for a horse just like him right now. So I think it'd be a great match. So well, I'll give you the information about that. Okay. But thank you so much. I hope everybody at home watching appreciates Jennifer's candidness about this. A lot of people aren't willing to share their stories and how things go, but unfortunately this happens all too often when we're not reading the horses correctly, and when there's some holes in there that are underneath the surface that we gotta get into. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys on the next one.